All right, 198. At a certain middle school, the sixth grade class is 390 increased by 10. Okay, so I'm just going, as I read this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write this down. So right now, we have 390, and it's increased by 10%. In seventh grade, we have 350, and it's increased by 22%. And then eighth grade, we have 420 increased by 20%. Boy, this is a really big middle school. They have more seventh graders than we have students by a good margin. Anyways, so let's figure out how many kids are now there. And I see that we're allowed to use a calculator, so I am going to use a calculator. Maybe, right? That's not what I meant to do. There we go. All right. So 390 and 10% of 390 is 39, so add 39. So we get 429. 22% of 350 is going to be 427. And so what I did here, since I have a calculator, I did 350 times 1.22 just to get a straight answer. And then 20% of 420 brings me up to, so I'll do it on the calculator to see how nice it is. So 420 times 1.2, and we get 504. All right, so what I'm being asked for is, I want to know overall what percentage increase of students in the middle school do we have? Give us the answer around at the nearest 10th. So I'm going to first have to add up how many students there were originally. So if I add 390, 350, 420, I'm going to get a grand total of 1,160 students. And now, with the increase of students, we are going to end up with, so if I add 429, 427, 504, I'm going to get 1,360. All right, that's a lot more kids, 200 more kids. So I go ahead and divide these out, and I get 17.2%. So that's my answer. All right, going on to 199, maybe. Oh boy, this is a tough one, folks. All right. All right, so I really struggled visualizing this problem. I don't know if anyone else had that issue, but essentially what's happening here is you have a right triangle, and it's being spun around this longest edge. I'm going to redraw that because here's the longest edge. There we go. And so it's spun in such a way that you end up with a shape that looks like this. So essentially it is two cones that are smushed together along their bottom edge. So really we have a cone at the top, and we have a cone at the bottom. And we know that this distance here is going to be our 10. So we know that we have a 6, we have an 8, we have a 10. The area of this whole shape has to be, I should have drawn that in a different place. The area of this whole thing has to be 48, because divided by 2, which is 24. Because base times the height divided by 2 is the area of a triangle. And so we know the area is 24, which means this distance here has to be 10 times x, let's call that x, has to equal, divided by 2, has to equal 24. So multiply both sides by 2, so I get 10, x is equal to 48, so I get x is equal to 4.8. So I know the radius of this shape right here is 4.8. Well, that's really helpful, because, well, is it? Now I need to find the height. Well, I can use my, what I know about the Pythagorean theorem. So I know that this is a right angle right here. I know this hypotenuse is 6. I know this is 4.8, which means 6 squared has to equal 4.8 squared plus x. Well, so this is x, let's call this y squared. So I'm going to pull up my calculator here. And so we know 36 is 6 times 6. 4.8 squared is 23.04, which means y squared has to equal 12.96. Take the square root from both sides. So that means, that's really convenient, it means this has to be 3.6. If this side is 3.6, then this side must be 6.4. And now I can find the volume of each cone. And I know the volume of a cone is the area of the base, pi r squared, times the height divided by 3. So I have to do that for both of them, add it together, and I should, if I do everything right, get the right answer. So here we go. So the radius is 4.8. So we have 4.8 squared is 23.04. So 23.04 times 3.14, which is pi, tells us to round to the nearest tenth, so I feel good about 3.14 for pi. And now I have to multiply the height. Multiply it by the height. Just had to make sure I hadn't done that already. And the height is 3.6. And then divide it by 3. And so the area of this thingamajig is 86.81. Now I'm going to keep one extra decimal place until I have my final answer, and then I'm going to round, just in case. And now it's time to move on to the second one, so the larger one. So again, we have a radius of 4.8. I'm going to square it. Then I'm going to multiply it by pi, 3.14. Then I'm going to multiply it by the height, which is 6.4. Oh, shoot. Apparently I hit something I shouldn't have. So again, 4.8 squared times pi, 3.14, times the height, which is 6.4. And then I'm going to divide it by 3. And then I'm going to add this to my 86.81. And I get 241.147. Which is a little problematic. So the answer key gives us an answer of 241.3. I have 241.1. So clearly, somewhere along the line, I have missed a decimal place, which is unfortunate. Unless I typed it in incorrectly or did something like that. So here's the thing. I know that my process is right, so I'm going to move on from that. But I mean, this is exactly how you do it. I know that these numbers are correct. So there's definitely a problem somewhere in the rounding that I did. All right. But again, process is what we're looking for. All right, the last problem. Vikram attempted to calculate 67 times 58, but he entered exactly one digit incorrectly, resulting in a product of 3,596. What is the sum of the two values he actually typed? Oh boy. All right, well, the first thing I'm going to do is I want to see what happens when I go 67 times 58. So I get a number that is fairly close, right? So we have 67 times 58, and we get 3886. So the first thing that I'm thinking is it's probably not the 6 and it's probably not the 5. So, and I know that I have to enter one of the numbers, I need one of the numbers to be a little bit less, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I know that one of the two numbers is wrong. So I want to figure out which of the two numbers is wrong. So I'm going to divide this by, let's divide it by 50. Oh, jeez. Sorry. I'm going to take the new number, right? 3596, and I'm going to divide this. I'm going to divide this by 58. I get 62. Oh, I get 62. Oh, well then what number is wrong? Well, the 7 has to be wrong. So the two numbers I'm using are 62 and 58, and it says to, what is the sum of the two values he actually multiplied? So I want to add those two together. So plus 58. You're talking to Aaron. And I get a total answer of 120. So that is my final answer. All right, so that's the entire workout number 3. I hope that this helps you understand what your homework was, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Thanks.